Well, that was a trip. What follows are my initial thoughts and reactions to this book of the Bible. I have not done any outside research regarding the more challenging or problematic passages of Christian scripture. Therefore, do not take whatever criticisms I may make in this video as my final word on the passage or verse in question. I am very likely going to be doing a Bible Revisited series addressing my different issues with the Bible, book by book, after conducting ample outside research. So now, without further ado, let's jump into the review. So the book of Revelation was written by the Apostle John while he was exiled on the island of Patmos, and the big thing that you need to know about this book is it is bananas. Oh my gosh. There is not, of all the books in the Bible, there is not a more mystical book than Revelation, to my knowledge. It's been a long time since I've read the Old Testament, and we're going to go back and read it, obviously, but Revelation, oh my gosh, is definitely the most mystical, most fantastical book in the entire Bible. I mean, literally, pretty much the entire book is a vision. John is told, he's literally told, I can't remember if it was by the voice of God or by an angel, to grab a scroll and start writing down everything he sees as this vision opens up before him. And that's pretty much the whole book. And it has everything to do with the end times, with Jesus and I mean, it is crazy. It is super cool though. Super cool. Revelation, holy crap. I mean, like, goodness, it is so, of all the books in the Bible that I've read, I think it also may be the most, like, you're like on the edge of your seat as you're reading a book. That doesn't usually happen, but it happens in Revelation. You're like, what's going on? I don't know, but I want to know. This book is highly, highly metaphorical. So many metaphors in here. So many, like, not fully explained metaphors, even to today. I mean, it is truly a book for an active mind, because it's, I mean, if you like watch the movie Inception and you're like, no, it's too confusing, too much effort, Revelation, you should still read it, but you're probably not gonna get it. But if you're like me, who loved Inception, you're gonna be like, holy crap! Revelation actually, I think, strengthened my faith because of how mystical and fantastical it was. You would think that wouldn't make any sense, but it kinda, I mean, it really, it like took a hold of me and was like, this is what's coming, bro. I'll tell you what it did. Reading Revelation made me go, this was not a dude who wrote it. I mean, yes, somebody wrote it down, but where it came from was not from some human brain just for the sake of it. This came from some other dimension. There's stuff described, particularly with like stars falling from the sky to the ground. It sounds like asteroids hitting the earth and stuff. I don't know, there's a lot of very detailed descriptions in Revelation that from a first century, like somebody writing in the first century, there's a lot of things today that if a first century writer was writing about things today, they'd write about it in the way that it's written in Revelation. And so, like, oh man, like, so like scorpions and like all these things going and kill people. Maybe not literally scorpions, maybe like technological things that we're making right now. I mean, it's a crazy book, and I loved it. And I highly recommend it. Definitely don't start off with it if you're somebody who's just stopping in to see what Carter has to say about the Bible. Don't start with Revelation. That's the wrong book to start with, because you won't understand at all what's going on, and you'll also be, I don't know, you probably will not, you just won't understand. And so don't start with Revelation, but definitely get around to reading Revelation. It's honestly, maybe, I don't know if it's it may be my favorite book in the New Testament. I don't know if it has impacted me as far as wisdom goes, like real truths, and like convicted me on moral dilemmas as much as some of the other books, but it grabbed my attention more than I think all the other books, even the Gospels, even though I think the Gospels are more important. But Revelation, to my very imaginative, creative mind was like, I don't know, it was like a birthday cake. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the review and analysis of the different passages and chapters of Revelation I want to talk about. I don't really know how I'm going to do this properly, because I kind of want to talk about every single chapter in Revelation, although I can't read every chapter in Revelation out loud, because this video would be like, 3 hours long. But I don't know, I want to touch on as much as I can. And so I'll probably just be like, chapter 9. So this is where, like, it just blew my mind, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know, this is going to be an interesting one in the editing process for sure. Now, the first passage I want to talk about is actually a passage where I was kind of like, this is one of those things where I'm uncomfortable with it being in the Bible. And my Life Application Bible conveniently did not have an explanation for it. I've noticed that about this book. Whenever I get to like really dark things that seem like are kind of morbid in the Bible, sometimes they have something, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just avoid it. And the verse I want to talk about is verse 22 of Revelation chapter 2. And it reads, "So I will cast her on a bed of suffering, and I will make those who commit adultery with her suffer intensely, unless they repent of her ways. I will strike her children dead." Here's the thing with that verse, and it's talking about a woman who claims to be a prophetess and who's really sexually immoral, a deceiver, a deceptive woman. That's what he's talking about. My thing is, like, the punishment of her is one thing, but the last thing where it says, verse 23, "I will strike her children dead," that's that's not punishing the child for the sins of the mother. Not okay. And there's no explanation in here. And to me, and these were, as far as, from what I can remember, it's been about a week since I read Revelation. From what I can remember, this is Jesus in the vision talking to John. And he's telling John what to say to these, the various churches. "I will strike her children dead." I'm sure there's probably an explanation somewhere for that. I have not looked, so full discretion, there may be an excellent answer for why that is not literal, but it seems literal in the context of what is written here, and it's it's a little unsettling, a little startling, because children are innocent. So, anyways, let's move on. If anyone who is like a biblical scholar or anybody who knows the answer to why that's in there, or has an idea of how I ought to look at that in a different way that is more accurate to what you believe is actually being said here, please let me know in the comment section below. Now, verse 24 of chapter 2 I also want to talk about. This also has to do with Jezebel, but it's more, that's not really the focus of what I'm going to talk about here, but let's just go ahead and read it. "Now I say to the rest of you in Thyatira, to you who do not hold to her teaching and have not learned Satan's so-called deep secrets, I will not impose any other burden on you. Only hold on to what you have until I come." Now, what's so compelling about verses 24 and 25 is it's acknowledging that Satan has so-called deep secrets that are very seductive. And this is not a foreign concept, obviously, if you've read the Bible, but just the whole idea of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, from all the way back in Genesis. That whole idea of Satan knows something that God doesn't want you to know. That whole idea is very interesting, because in some ways, like, God is, He's trying to protect us from the knowledge of these things that are actually bad for us in the long run, but at the same time, we humans, we want to know everything. People just want to know secrets. But the problem is that the things, the deep secrets of the devil are corruptions, it seems to me, in the Bible, of what is good. This is a ridiculous analogy, but I'm going to make it anyways, because I think it kind of fits. Say we have aliens in Area 51. And we as American citizens are like, hey, let us know about them. We want to know about the freaking aliens. You know why? Because of freaking aliens. We don't care if you got to keep, don't keep deep secrets like that. That's too big. Okay, you got to let us know. But, so from our perspective, it's almost like, hey, why won't you let us have that knowledge? Why won't you let us eat, to go back to the God thing, why won't you let us know the deep secrets of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Why won't you let us know what Satan knows? That sort of thing. That's kind of how we relate to God. Whereas God is like the government in this fictional world where aliens are. They may be here, but who knows? I'm not making any statements about that right now. But God is almost like the government, where it's like, we would love to let you know about the aliens. We would. Only problem is that the aliens are trying to kill all of us, and if we let you know that the aliens are going to try and kill everybody, then the whole society is going to break down, and we won't have any chance to actually figure out how to kill the aliens, because you guys will have gone crazy. That was a very stupid analogy, but perhaps you understand what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know. There was a great, in the Chronicles of Narnia, the first book, The Magician's Nephew, there was a great, there was a great thing about the, eating the apple from the tree and everything, and it was almost like Aslan in the book forbids one of the characters, Diggory, from eating the apple, and Diggory doesn't eat the apple. He was really tempted to. He's just supposed to go and retrieve it and bring it back to Aslan, and Aslan says, just don't eat the apple, and he doesn't. And then Aslan, whenever Diggory comes back with the apple, Aslan lets him eat the apple, and it's like, what's going on? Everything in the proper time, in the proper place. That was kind of the message. Next verse I want to talk about is verse 10 of Revelation chapter 3. It's very interesting. It has to do with the rapture. I'll just read it real quick. Since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come upon the whole world to test those who live on the earth. The rapture is a very interesting concept to me. I don't really believe in the rapture, because then it also talks about, in Revelation and other parts of the Bible, people having to endure getting, slaughtered and all that sort of stuff, and tragedies and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really know, but this verse seems to say, kind of falls in line with the idea of the rapture. As I understand it, the rapture wasn't even a concept in Christianity until like the 1800s, and so I don't know. It's a weird thing. I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts. If you guys have a lot of thoughts on it, leave them in the comment section below. The next passage, and this one I really want to read, is Revelation chapter 3, verses 14 through 22. By the way, most of this I'm reading here is Jesus in the vision that John is seeing, and he's basically like Gandalf the White the whole time. Very cool, whatever. But I'm going to read the passage now. To the angel of the church in Laodicea write, these are the words of the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the ruler of God's creation. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing. But you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, so you can become rich, and white clothes to wear, so you can cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes, so you can see. Those whom I love I rebuke and discipline. So be earnest and repent. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with him, and he with me. To him who overcomes, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. So what's important to talk about here is basically what Jesus is saying is if you are a pushover, you are in the middle, you just try to adjust yourself in life to fit in with the right crowd at the right time and not take a stand on anything, not have any real convictions. You are neither hot or cold. You are neither an atheist or a hardcore Christian. You're just a meh, I don't know, man. Basically, Jesus is like, I spit you out of my mouth. He's basically saying you're a coward. He's also saying that about just Christians who walk around saying that they're Christians, and then whenever somebody says, Jesus, dude, that guy's freaking stupid, they're like, yeah, man. Yeah, he's basically like saying, if you're like that, you're just like bad coffee. Okay, so here is where I'm gonna probably have to basically just kind of like, just kind of talk about my feelings about these chapters, because I can't read all of them, even though I really badly want to. Chapter 4 and Chapter 5 are so cool. I may read part of these chapters, but I mean, like, you need to read Revelation yourself. Like, you've got to, because it's so cool. The description in Chapter 4 of John seeing the throne, the main throne, and 24 other thrones, and the 4 living creatures with eyes all over their bodies and wings and all this. I mean, it's so crazy. Such a cool description. And then Chapter 5, I love that because there's the scrolls, and no one can open the scrolls. And John, he starts crying, and he's like, "What? Who can open the scrolls?" And then, the voice that's been speaking to him says, "No, do not weep." One of the elders says to him, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and 7 seals." And then verse 6 is, "Then I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain, standing in the center of the throne, encircled by the 4 living creatures and the elders. He had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. He came and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. And when he had taken it, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp, and they were holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song. 'You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased men for God. From every tribe and language and people and nation, you have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth.'" So I kind of read half of Chapter 5 there, but that whole thing is so cool because the lamb, it's all this whole vision. He sees a lamb that looks as if it had been slain. Of course, that's Jesus being sacrificed on the cross, the lamb that was slain. Only he can open the scroll. And then also something to point out is from every tribe and language and people and nation. That verse there at the end kind of destroys racism. Came to save everybody. And now obviously in Chapter 6, what I want to talk about are the 4 horsemen. The description of the 4 horsemen is so cool. I mean, like, I barely even knew what the 4 horsemen were until I read Revelation. Now I do. And now I know that they are really, really a very, very cool concept. And my favorite description is, "And I looked and I saw before me a pale horse. Its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed close behind." That one, that's so cool. It's basically talking about what's going to the beginning of the end times. And I do want to read the last part where it says verse 15 to 17, where it reads, "Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and every slave and every free man hid in caves and among the rocks of the mountains. They called to the mountains and the rocks, 'Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand?'" And this was after the previous passage where it talked about earthquakes, the sun turning black, whole moon turning blood red, and stars falling to the sky and ruining everything. And I don't know, it's just so epic. I don't know how in the world you can make a movie out of Revelation, but if someone could, that would be epic. Now, chapter 7 is also very interesting because of the concept of the 144,000 who have the seal. I don't really understand it, because it also goes on in that chapter to talk about those who came out of the Great Tribulation, those who are clothed in white. And so the 144,000, I know some people think that just means those are the people that are going to be raptured, if you believe in the rapture. But it seems to say that some people go through tribulation. I know it's very confusing. I don't really know. Now, chapter 9 is a chapter I would love to read the whole thing, just as I would love to read all the chapters in their full, but I can't. But basically, chapter 9 is describing the end of the world and about the 7 trumpets being sounded by the 7 angels, I think. And man, whenever like some of the descriptions in Revelation, you're like, oh, that sounds completely crazy. Like, it describes locusts descending upon those who do not have the seal of God on them, or the seal of the Lamb on them, and torturing these people for 5 months and not letting them die. I mean, there's even a verse here where it says, because of these locusts, it says, for goodness' sake, it says, during those days men will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. I mean, it's really epic language. I mean, this whole book is full of epic language. But whenever it talks about the abyss and locusts coming out of the abyss and torturing those who are not, who do not have the mark, for 5 months, and also describes a mountain falling from the sky and hitting the ocean, and the ocean turns to blood. And it says a mountain, let me see, something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. Now, this whole description, you ought to read chapters 8 and 9. That's what I'm actually really describing here, because they kind of bleed into, they bleed into each other. But you ought to read, obviously read 8 and 9 and try and come back to me and say, oh, none of that sounds like what's happening or what could happen to us. Scientists are saying there's an asteroid that's going to come and kill us. I don't know when that's going to happen or if that's ever going to happen. But if a first century writer was going to describe an asteroid hitting the Earth, what would they say? They would say it was something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, hitting the ocean, and then killing everything, almost everything. Very scary stuff, and don't know what all of it means. Locusts could be literal locusts. I don't think so. Now, chapter 11 is fascinating because it's believed, according to my Live Application Bible, that the 2 witnesses described in chapter 11 are the return of Elijah and Moses, and to prophesy and preach on the earth and kind of ruin things for a lot of evil people. And then they're killed, and then they come back to life, and there's a beast coming out of the abyss, and it's all it's crazy, but it's more end time stuff. And by at the end of chapter 11, now God is, it's almost like God is here now. The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever. But man, it's wild. It's wild. That's chapter 11 for you. Chapter 12. What can I say about chapter 12 other than the woman clearly represents something. I don't really know exactly, but chapter 12 is mostly the angels of heaven fighting the great dragon that is Satan, and Satan loses, and it's just so epic. How did somebody figure out how to make a movie out of it? Mel Gibson? Huh? Now, chapter 13, I definitely want to discuss, and I want to discuss particularly the opening passage and the rest of it, but I want to read the opening passage because it describes the beast, the main big bad beast, I believe. There's a couple beasts described in this book, but I think this is the big one. And so, here it is. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on his horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was astonished and followed the beast. That's just a super cool description, but also there's one quick thing I want to point out there. It says the beast seemed to have suffered a fatal wound, but the wound had healed. I wonder what that means. I wonder if that means that by Jesus dying, the beast, Satan, evil itself, was critically injured. It was almost completely dead, but it had healed, and it was trying to come back here. I kind of think that's what it's trying to say. I kind of think that that's the story behind that little bit of writing. And the rest of chapter 13 describes another beast after the first beast, who basically says to the rest of the world, worship the first beast. This is where we get the mark of the beast, where I'm just going to read this part here. The second beast, the beast after the beast that had come out of the sea, the beast that comes out of the earth, he forces everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is man's number. His number is 666. Now that's just a brief portion of chapter 13, a description of the beast. But that's crazy, because, a lot of people have long theorized that the mark of the beast is a chip that's going to go on your wrist, or something that they're going to put on your forehead or you buy or sell. We have that technology now. A lot of people are theorizing that is what's going to be happening. I'm not putting anything in my body, like a chip or anything, because even if it's not for like buying or selling, I'm too afraid of that freaking government, bro. Also, what's really interesting about Revelation is no one actually knows what the three numbers 666 mean. We just have the number. Chapter 16 I also want to talk about because it's more destruction, end of the world kind of stuff. And then also we have that famous word, or infamous word known as Armageddon that pops up. And basically, most of chapter 16 is describing the events of what's going to happen, the angels pouring out God's wrath on the earth, and then the nations of men gathering at the place known in Hebrew as Armageddon for war. I'm very jolly about end of the world stuff. I don't know why. Oh man, I'm getting tired. But I gotta talk about chapter 17. Chapter 17 deals with the woman in the desert on the beast, drunk with the blood of all those who had died for Jesus and God. It's such a cool metaphor, because it's it's in a vision, and that it's not a literal woman, the prostitute of Babylon. That's basically, I see that as that's the devil who's drunk with the victory over taking the souls of men. Chapter 18 kind of describes what the aftermath is of the prostitute of Babylon being destroyed, being defeated, and how she had affected all different kinds of people throughout the millennias, and with all her adulteries and her seductiveness and her witchcraft sort of stuff. Hey everybody, I'm clean shaven now and my hair slicked back. Why? Because I needed to take a break and look fresh for the end of this review. So chapter 19, what I find so cool about it is, it's all about hallelujah, hallelujah. Evil has been vanquished, basically. War's not fully over, but pretty much everyone's gearing up to basically take down the devil and his forces for the last of them. And it's just, I don't know, it's just really, really cool. And one of the things that's really interesting is John at one point tries to worship one of the angels, and the angel says, no, I am not God, worship God, who is, and Jesus is he basically says worship Jesus. But that happens a couple times in this book, and it's very interesting. The angels also, they are tempted in that moment to do what Lucifer did, but they don't do it. It's because they're good angels. But yeah, basically a war between heaven's army and the world's army of evil men and demons is described very briefly, and then the beast is caught and with the false prophet, and they're thrown into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. So you've gone down, Mr. Bitch. Now, chapter 20 is basically Satan's doom. It's kind of weird, though. It talks about, like, Satan's bound for 1,000 years and then let go for a short time, and then he's finally thrown into the burning lake of sulfur. But it's also, I don't know, chapter 20 is a little, I don't really understand it fully. And I don't understand the Bible's just, you know, it acts like Hades is some other entity than Satan. Because in chapter 20, I mean, it says that the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake burning sulfur. And then it says later, the sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and each person was judged according to what he had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. It almost acts like they're different entities. I don't know what that, I don't know what it, it almost seems like Hades is like a real thing in the Bible. And so I wonder, I don't know, because I always associate Hades with Greek mythology, but yeah, I don't know. But any biblical scholars out there can explain to me who Hades is? How is he different from the devil? Are they two different entities, or is Hades just part of who the devil is, or death in general? I don't know. That's why you're going to tell me what I ought to know. So in chapters 21 and 22, it's just amazing. Like, I just love talking about Revelation just for the language used, the way heaven is described, the gates, the river, the streets, everything is beautiful. The older way of things is done. Pain, death, sorrow, all that stuff is over with now. It's supposed to be over with when the new age of life comes in heaven. And yeah, and then, you know, chapter 22 is John saying, peace out. Don't mess with this book. If you mess with it, God will mess with you. And also, Jesus is coming back, bro. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I loved Revelation. It was a great journey to read it. I read it in 2 days. It was incredible. I really loved Revelation. Would highly recommend it. Don't read it first, but definitely read it sometime. I recommend read some of the other books of the Bible first, preferably all of the New Testament first. Or also maybe even the Old Testament as well. But it's a great book. But now I want to know what you thought of Revelation. So please, if you have read Revelation, please leave your comments and questions, whatever you got to say, in the comment section below. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this video, please like it and subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel. And never forget to